Hello, everyone. My name is Andrei.Hall, president of Hall Wealth Management Group in Irvine, California. We had a show today with Ed Slott on November the 10th. So positively, we decided we're going to release this video right away. Now, if you're receiving this, you're one of the fortunate people that are going to get a chance to hear Ed Slott, although it's a great experience, but sometimes it's even a better experience when it's live, but you're still going to get great information. You're going to learn a lot. He does it in a fun and humorous way, and it's very so insightful. It's something that you're going to appreciate the time you spent listening. Enjoy, and I'll see you at the end. Thank you.
Hey, you ever hear this saying, less is more? Well, less is not more. Less is less, except when it comes to taxes. The less you pay, the more you keep. But to keep more and pay less, you have to have a plan, which almost nobody does. And it starts with knowing the difference between your tax deferred retirement savings and tax free. There's a big difference. And that big difference comes down to one little word. And that little word is yet, Y-E-T. Tax deferred means you won't pay taxes on that money yet, but you will at some future date, probably at a higher rate, the way things are going. Tax-free means you'll never pay taxes on that money. So the first thing you're going to learn, one of my always rules is pretty obvious. We'll start easy. Tax-free is always better. You keep all of your money. You don't have to share it with the government. For example, your IRAs, 401ks, your 403bs, those are all tax deferred. That money has not yet been taxed. It's a sitting duck. Tax-free money is way better. It's already been taxed. Let me give you a story about the difference to illustrate the difference between tax deferred and tax free. This one's a little wacky. Actually, I just saw it recently. This is an old, I mean, really old, like me, episode of The Twilight Zone. Some of you may remember this. This was back in 1960. I'm talking about the original one with Rod Serling, those weird tales. This was actually, if you want to look it up, it's a great episode, at least the beginning part. Then it goes off the rails like they all do. It was called The Man in the Bottle. It's season 2, episode 2, 1960, just about 60 years ago, October 1960. Anyway, the show opens with poor Arthur and Edna Castle, and leave it to the irony of the Twilight Zone to give them the last name Castle since they're dead broke. And they're in their broken down antique shop with stuff all over the place, papers, bills. Arthur's broke, the bills are piling up. He's thinking about declaring bankruptcy, and then he knocks over a worthless wine bottle that he got for $1, and out pops a genie. Or maybe he's the devil. We don't know because he's kind of tricky. And the genie says to Arthur, I'll grant you 4 wishes. Well, Arthur, being down on his luck financially, says, I want $1 million in $5 and $10 bills. Now, of course, today we'd wish for $1 billion, but this is 1960. That was a lot of money. He says, I want $1 million in $5 and $10 bills. And sure enough, it starts raining money. The floor of the little antique shop is filling up with $1 million in $5 and $10 bills. Well, Arthur and Edna are so happy. They invite the townspeople in, start giving money away. People are walking out with stacks of money. And then in walks a man, and he says to Arthur, I'm from the Internal Revenue Service, and I'm here to calculate the tax you owe on that $1 million. And he sits down and does his calculations and comes back and says to Arthur, you owe federal and state $940,000. Well, Arthur gave out $60,000 in gifts. Now he has to pay $940,000 in tax. So they go to the next scene. He's paid off his taxes. Arthur and Edna are sitting there in the antique shop, broke. They have $5 left. Arthur's holding one single $5 bill. And the genie reappears and says to Arthur, Arthur, you really should have taken taxes into account. I told you he was tricky. And immediately Arthur says, all right, I want $1 million after tax, tax-free. And there it is. That's the lesson. Now, that was an expensive lesson that back then at such a high rate. Now, you might say, well, 90% tax, that's ridiculous. That's absurd. No, it isn't. I actually, being a CPA, in case you don't know, I'm a CPA, I checked that out. And back in 1960, the top federal tax rate was 91% plus state taxes. The show was in the ballpark. In fact, if you look back all the years people like me and probably many of you baby boomers were born, those are years 1946 through 1964. The top federal tax rate every one of those years exceeded 90% every one of those years, except the last year, 1964, when the Beatles came to America and everybody was so happy that they dropped the federal rate all the way down to only 77%. Can you imagine how high tax rates were? And now I get it. Now I understand why, growing up, listening to my dad, why I always thought the words damn and taxes were one word. Now I get it. So we learned two lessons from this tale. Number one, they didn't exist yet, but essentially what Arthur had was an IRA, untaxed money, money that has not yet been taxed. That's what we have now. And if tax rates do go back up that high, I don't think they will, but they were for many years, this is what we can expect. And the other reason is exactly that, history. Mark Twain had a saying, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. Those who don't learn from history, the saying, are bound to repeat it. Look at the deficits and debts our country is ringing up. We just got our report card, our financial statement as a country for September 30th. That's our fiscal year. And our deficits and debts are the worst they have ever been since the end of World War II, 1946. Where we had the exact situation financially we have right now. So we could be in trouble because this money has not yet been taxed. It's a sitting duck. That's why we have to do something about it now. The greatest single threat to your retirement savings is a four-letter word. Nope, it's not kids, in case you were thinking that. That's a four-letter word. Nope, it's not kids. Everybody knows kids are a lousy investment. Where's the return there? Especially when they get older. It used to be the American dream was owning your own home. Now it's getting the kids out of it. We have these boomerang kids. They keep coming back. No, the single biggest threat to your retirement savings is a four-letter word. It's not kids. It's math, M-A-T-H. At some point, the bill for these debts are going to come due. And that's when we're going to see history repeat itself and the rates will go way up. Right now, they're at the lowest you'll ever see in your lifetime. So we have to take advantage of it. It doesn't matter about the politics, in case you're wondering, doesn't matter. I mean, at this point, taxes can't go lower, but they will go higher at some point. And that's why we have to prepare. It really doesn't matter, actually, who's in office, because at this point, any politician that says, I can cut your taxes, is really just saying, I'm bad at math. Please help me. This is important. There are only three kinds of people in this world. Think about this. Three kinds. Those who understand math and those who don't. Three kinds. Think about that. So now that we're talking about math, let me make you a make-believe offer. Now, Andre is not making this offer, and neither am I. But if somebody were to offer you right now a choice that you would have to make now, you could take $1 million in cold hard cash right now, or a penny, but it would be a magic penny. And that penny would double every day, but for only 30 days. So the next day it would be worth 2 cents, 4 cents, 8 cents, 16 cents. Think about which you would take, $1 million cold hard cash right up front now, or the magic penny that doubles every day for 30 days. Now, I can't see what you're choosing, but in my experience, when I've run this in front of audiences, 2/3 take the magic penny, which is the winner, and 1/3 still takes the $1 million up front. Let me show you why the penny that doubles every day, at the end of 30 days, you end up with way more than the $1 million. And it has to do with compounding. You should see on your screen now the power of compounding. Even Albert Einstein, you see it there, called it the eighth wonder of the world. Now, for a smart guy, I always wonder about Einstein. You know that rule in spelling I before E except after C? Well, he got it wrong twice in his own name. So how smart could he be? Anyway, he came up with this power of compounding. He said compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Many of you know that saying of his, but many of you don't know the second part, which I reprinted here. You should be watching it now. He who understands it earns it, but he who doesn't pays it. And here's why compounding works, why that penny is better. Look what this penny doubles every day for 30 days. So at the end of 10 days, you still only have $5. But at the end of 20 days, you have 5,000, still nowhere near $1 million. But look what happens in those last 10 days. Over $5 million. Give it another 10 days, it'd be up over $1 billion. That's the power of compounding. And notice how the power of compounding builds in the later years. It has a snowball effect. So we understand compound interest. But here's the thing. This is what Einstein was getting at here when he said, he who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Here's the dark side of compounding. It works both ways. The math doesn't discriminate. We always think of compound interest as something we get on our savings, but that's when you own money. If you owe money, the compounding works the same way, but against you. Ask anybody who hasn't paid a credit card bill in a few months. They don't understand the dark side of compounding, how compounding can work against you, piling up debt. Now, you may say, well, that's interesting, but I'm kind of debt-free, so this doesn't apply to me. Well, if you think you're debt-free in retirement, think again. I'm going to turn this off and I'll come back, but well, I'll leave this on so you could see the magic penny for a little anyway. Kind of interesting. Remember, would you rather have $1 million or the magic penny? Due to compounding, the magic penny wins. But what I'm saying, compounding has a dark side when you owe money. There are two what I call silent retirement killers, and I'm going to cover both of them right now. Debt and risk. If you put them together, D for debt and R for risk, you have D and R. If you say it fast, you have a DNR, like do not resuscitate. If you have DNR in your retirement account, you won't be able to resuscitate that retirement account. So here's the point. The debt that I'm talking about is the taxes, the deferred taxes in your retirement account. Now, you might say, well, I'm debt-free in retirement. So what does that even mean? When I ask people at seminars, what are you debt-free? You know what people say? Well, most people raise their hands in retirement, which is good. You want to be debt-free in retirement. And you know what they say? Well, I'm debt-free because I don't owe any money on my house, paid off my mortgage, so I own that the house free and clear. Don't owe any credit card bills and don't owe anybody any money, so I must be debt free. So then I say, do you have an IRA or a 401k or a 403b, any tax deferred account? And most people say yes. And a lot of people say, not only do I have one, it's my largest single asset. Well, then you're not debt free because there's a debt growing inside that account, growing for Uncle Sam. As you see on the bottom of the screen here, deferred taxes, remember that's tax deferred, that money has not been taxed, are compounding just like this compounding works. And every day you do nothing about it, the compounding works against you. So we have to do something about that. And we're going to talk about that right now. The debt is working against you unless you do something. And the thing you have to do is what I always say, I've been saying for years, move your money from accounts that are forever taxed to accounts that are never taxed, from tax deferred to tax free. Well, how do you do that? Well, two ways. The first way is a Roth IRA conversion. Now, that means you have to pay taxes up front, but you're getting something for your money. Here's another always rule about good tax planning. Remember the first rule I told you, tax-free is always better? The next rule, the foundation of all good tax planning, and that's where you'll make all your money. Always pay taxes at the lowest rates, which is right now. You want to get that money out now. And you don't have to do a full conversion, but you should think about it. You talk to somebody like Andre, he said he has an appointment there. If you click on the link, these are the kind of things advisors that we train, like Andrei.Hall, are trained on. How to evaluate a Roth conversion. I think everybody should be seriously looking at this now before year end. We don't know what's going to happen with tax rates next year. They're not going to go lower. That I can tell you. Look at the math. It comes down to the math. So you may want to look into moving your money from forever tax deferred IRA, to a Roth IRA. Yes, you pay tax on the conversion, but look what you get for your money. Number one, once the money is in the Roth IRA, it's tax-free forever for you and after your lifetime for your beneficiaries, even under the new Secure Act. They could still go out over 10 years accumulating all tax-free. And you know what happens the minute you convert? The compounding moves from working against you in an IRA to working for you in a Roth IRA, because now all the earnings are compounding in your favor because you own that account, not owe it. See, the taxes in an IRA strangle that IRA. They're like a mortgage on your IRA. I remember when my dad finally paid off his mortgage. He bought the house we grew up in, the only house we ever had, back in 1957. He bought that house for $16,000, and he took a 30-year, $12,000 mortgage. And it took him 30 years to pay that thing off. I remember in 1987 when he finally paid it off, he was so happy and proud to own his own home free and clear. In fact, back then, people were so thrilled to pay off their mortgages, they actually celebrated, and I don't get this being a CPA, with something called mortgage burning parties. I don't get that at all. Some of you may have heard of that. Maybe it was just a New York thing where I'm broadcasting from today. Maybe it was a thing, but why would you burn the only documentation that proves you don't owe the bank any money? So I don't get it, but that's how thrilled and proud they were to own their own homes. Wouldn't you like to have that same feeling about your biggest account, your 401k or your IRA, to own it free and clear? So any appreciation, any growth compounds for you, not against you. And the great thing also with Roths, once you do that, you've reduced your current taxes forever. Because if you don't convert, you're going to get into a situation where your IRA is going to build and be subject to future higher taxes. Now, you know what some people tell me? Accountants tell me this sometimes. If I convert and pay tax up front, I'm out that money up front. I could have invested that money. So some people call that an opportunity cost. Well, I'm here to show you that there's no such thing as that opportunity cost. Let me show you something here. A simple example. If you didn't do a Roth conversion, and remember, here's what I'm saying. If we project that taxes will stay the same or go higher, and that's a pretty good bet, the Roth wins out. You got to look at what you get long term. Long term, you want to have more, keep more, and make it last. More for you, less for IRS. You'll always have more that way. So the math, and this is good math to know, the math shows that if tax rates and earnings rates are the same or higher, the Roth wins out. Let's look at a simple example. If you didn't do a Roth conversion, let's say we say the money doubles over your lifetime. You start with 100,000, so you have 200,000. We estimate a 30% rate. It doesn't matter what rate we use as long as we use the same rate to make an apples to apples comparison. So the tax would be 60,000. You'd be left with 140. If you did a Roth conversion, you'd have to pay the 30% up front, but only on 100,000 would leave you at 70. If that doubled, you're back at the same 140. So the return is the same if the rates stay the same. But if the rates go higher, the Roth starts snowballing way ahead. The Roth advantage compounds over time. That's what I wanted you to see here. And let's say I'm wrong, all right? I could be wrong. Maybe tax rates won't go down. I doubt it, but let's say I'm wrong about everything. This is the great part about the Roth. First of all, there are no required distributions during your lifetime. You never have to take out the money like you do with IRAs at 72. You're forced to pay taxes at whatever the prevailing rate is, even if it's up to 50, 60%. Then you're going to come out on the losing end just when you need the money the most in retirement. That's the last time you want to see the tax rates get jacked up, when you need the money most and you're the most vulnerable. So let's say I'm wrong. And tax rates, you might say, but Ed, I think my tax rates are going to go down or stay the same. Even if I'm wrong, you know what your worst case scenario is? Because whenever there's a financial decision, I think you have to, and I do the same thing, and I did this in my own family. You have to look at the worst case scenario in either case. So what's the worst case scenario? You converted to the Roth, you paid some tax up front, and it's tax you would have paid anyway. So you're not, it's not when you're going to pay, if you're going to pay the tax, it's when. So you paid the tax up front. That's the downside. But what's the worst case scenario if I'm wrong, if rates didn't go up? Your rate is locked in at 0%. That's a pretty good consolation prize. You locked in a 0% tax rate. You can't beat a 0% tax rate. You never have to worry about the government jacking up rates. In fact, anything tax-free like a Roth IRA, the minute tax rates increase, which is a good bet, your tax-free money in a Roth becomes immediately more valuable. Look at the difference in that twilight zone of taxation I talked about, that show. Look at Arthur and Edna Castle. Now, that was pretty wild at 90% tax, but that really shows the difference between tax-deferred and tax-free. Tax-deferred, that account that Arthur didn't pay tax on the $1 million, if he had it tax-free, he'd have $1 million more, as opposed to losing over 900,000 in taxes. Now, that's, like I said, twilight zone of taxation, but I want to keep you out of that. So that's something you want to discuss with Andrei, because he's well trained. I know that, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. He's a member of our elite IRA advisor educational program, so he is well trained on doing an evaluation. I think at a minimum, you should make an appointment and get an evaluation. You don't have to convert everything, but I think at some point you got to start moving money to tax-free territory as a hedge against the uncertainty of what future higher taxes can do to your standard of living in retirement. You might even think of the Roth IRA as insurance, tax insurance in case rates go up. If rates go up, Once you have a Roth IRA, your money's worth more. I think probably the best course of action for most people is to start a plan of doing smaller annual conversions each year, so that over time you're bringing back this bad asset, this IRA heavily taxed asset, and bringing up the value in your tax-free funds that you never have to withdraw from. And if you do, it's tax-free, so you won't be affected by future higher taxes. Your Social Security tax won't be affected. Your Medicare taxes won't be affected. So it's a pretty good deal. I'm a big fan. I did this for myself, but you should have at a minimum an evaluation. So that's one way. One way to move from forever tax to never tax. It's the biggest gift the Congress ever gave us in the tax code. The second way may surprise you: life insurance. Now, just so you know, I'm a CPA. I said it before. I don't sell life insurance. I don't sell stocks, bonds, insurance, annuities, none of that. I'm a tax advisor. But as a tax advisor, I have to tell you, the tax exemption for life insurance is the single biggest benefit in the tax code, and most people don't know to take advantage of it because they don't understand, or actually, when I do seminars, the minute I bring up life insurance, and I'm talking about whole life cash value, permanent life insurance, not term, with a cash value. The minute I bring it up, I get that look on everybody's face that, like you're listening to this radio station I like to call WIIFM. What's in it for me? Isn't that what you're thinking? Life insurance, what's in it for me? I just pay everybody and then I drop dead. What's in it for me? That's what most people don't understand. Here's the key to it. We all know about the death benefit, and that's great. That's where the leverage is. That's where you can leave larger inheritances with more control and less tax. And that's what everybody wants. IRAs won't make that happen, especially now after the Congress introduced the Secure Act, which is in effect now. 10 years after death, your beneficiaries will get zapped with high taxes. There's no more stretch IRA. Life insurance may be a good alternative, but there's benefits to you during your lifetime. Did you know you could use and build a cash value account, building tax-free, just like a Roth IRA? It pays now to take some of that IRA down, like you could do with the Roth IRA, same thing, except here, put it in a life insurance policy, or do a little of both. That's what I did. So you have these lifetime benefits. Most people don't know that you could draw from your life insurance. So here's the question: can you be the beneficiary of your own life insurance without dying? Can you be the beneficiary of your own life insurance without dying? The answer is yes. There, you can access the cash value. You have an account building in the policy, tax-free, that if you need it, you can access it. A man bought his wife a burial plot. The next year, he didn't buy her anything, and she complained. He said, "You didn't use the present I got you last year." Unlike that burial plot, life insurance can be used during life as well as after death. In other words, you could take an advance on your life insurance, and all the time it's building tax-free. And what does tax-free means? You keep all the gains. You don't have to share anything with Uncle Sam. So you might be thinking now, wait a minute, this doesn't sound bad, but Ed, if I use it during the lifetime, what about my beneficiaries? Won't they get less? Well, who cares about them? This is about you. They're going to get plenty. That's the problem with everybody. They worry too much about the next generation. They are going to get plenty. You have to take care of yourself first. If you don't take care of yourself, you're no good to anyone else anyway. Now, I used to fly a lot all around the country, go out to see Andrei out in California. But obviously, with everything going on, we're doing these virtual programs. But when I was on planes all the time, the minute you got on the plane, the flight attendants started with the instructions, the safety instructions. And they would say, if the oxygen mask comes down, first put it on yourself, and then on the children you like the most, in that order. Why do they tell you that? They tell you that because they say if you can't take care of yourself, you're no good to anyone else. It's the same thing here. So don't worry so much about what the kids are going to get. Start planning your own safe retirement and move the debt out of that IRA. Remember, that's a debt that's growing. If you do nothing, the debt compounds against you every day. Where with Roth IRAs and life insurance, it compounds for you. That's where you want to be. That's where the big money is. But another feature of life insurance, which I have myself, this is something you can talk to Andre about because I'm not a life insurance professional, but many life insurance policies have an added feature now that I got. Some people call them hybrid policies. What I'm talking about is the elephant in the room, long-term care. This is the thing that everybody is the most worried about. The single biggest fear in America, living too long and running out of money. Today, I see tax returns, and I'd say for the last 10 years, it's not unusual to see tax returns claiming $100,000 or more of medical expenses, nursing home, aids, home health care aids, or medical home improvements. They cost a fortune. These are big ticket items like widening doorways and hallways for wheelchair access, ramps, railings, chair lifts, stair lifts. All of these things cost a fortune. Putting in elevators sometimes. It's very expensive. Where is the money going to come for that? Do you know with the newer life insurance policies, you can take it from your life insurance? That's what I have. Some of them are called hybrid policies, and some call it just a regular permanent life insurance policy like I have with a long-term care rider. The point is that if I need long-term care, the last thing I want to do is rely on my kids to come up with the thousands of dollars every month to pay my bills, to pay nursing home costs. If I leave it up to them, who knows where I'll end up? I want to know this is taken care of, and you should too. So that's why I have this kind of policy. So it's the same idea. I could take an advance on the policy to pay these bills. Yes, the kids get a little less, but they don't have to reach into their pocket. You know, the last thing you want is to force your kids into this uncomfortable situation of coming up with money to take care of you. That's something you can do with life insurance. So life insurance has many lifetime benefits in addition to the death benefit, which is all tax-free. And hopefully you'll never need that money, the life insurance money, and it will be a tax-free windfall for your beneficiary. Way better than inheriting an IRA. It actually pays to take down that IRA and start piling up with the life insurance if it's right for you. That's why you need to make an appointment and do an evaluation, both for the Roth conversion and the life insurance. Andrei.Hall, the reason I'm here is to let you know how well educated he is. The reason I'm here is Andre is a member of Ed Slott's elite IRA advisor group. He's at our master's level, the highest level in the country. It's a level that only about 300 of advisors across the country have achieved. It's an educational study group. It has nothing to do with investments. This is not about investments. You already did that part. This is about keeping what you have. Tax planning. Most financial advisors do not have the required knowledge. In fact, most of them do not know they don't know, so they're dangerous. Most of them do not have this kind of training. Years ago, I was just talking to Andre before, we were reminiscing when he started. Seems like it might have been about 15 years ago. He realized he wanted to go one step more for his clients, and he joined our educational program. And this is a series of workshops we cover. We've been doing it for over 15 years. Actually, we're starting our 17th year next year of training sessions. Anytime something comes up, he's right in the loop. In fact, all day Thursday and Friday, he sat through 2 full days of virtual training on the latest in IRS rulings, court cases, tax laws, tax planning, what to do at year end. A lot of opportunities there. How to do a Roth conversion analysis, how to move your money from forever tax to never tax. Bottom line is to get you your plan, not the government plan. Nobody wants that plan, but that's the plan most people get. Most financial advisors do not take this kind of training. They're trained on investments, and that's fine, but that's not good enough. It's like a football game. You know, football, they have a saying, the score at halftime is irrelevant. Give me the score at the end of the game, and then I'll tell you who won. Well, halftime, it doesn't matter. Even if you had a great advisor, I don't care if they made you 30% a year for 30 years. If you end up giving it all back in taxes, excessive and needless taxes, which is what I've seen over the last 30 years, that's why I started this group years ago. What have you done? You built a savings account for Uncle Sam. And I don't know if you know this, he's not even your real uncle. Now, you might say, Ed, you're railing about taxes. I'm not anti-tax or anti-government. I'm more in the old Arthur Godfrey school. You may remember him, the old comedian from the 50s and 60s. He said, I'm proud to be an American paying taxes. The only thing is, I could be just as proud for half the money. That's all I'm saying. Wouldn't you want to lower your tax bill? Remember what I started with, less is more. The less you pay, the more you keep. But to keep more and pay less, you have to have a plan. So I laid out the D part, the debt, how to get rid of that debt in your IRA and turn it from owing debt into ownership to make the compounding work for you instead of against you by moving your money through a plan with a great advisor like Andrei. And that's why you have an opportunity of a lifetime here. He's one of the most highly educated in the planning. This part that most advisors just don't go near. It's like kryptonite for most advisors. They just want to do investments, but that's not good enough because remember, these IRAs, 401ks, 453Bs are tax deferred. This money has not yet been taxed. That has to be addressed. It doesn't matter how much you make, it's how much you keep. You can't spend what you give to IRS. And that's why you need an advisor that has this level of training. And we have about 400 of them throughout the country. And out of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of advisors, you would think most advisors have this knowledge. They don't. So that's why I'm here. I want to let you know the investment that Andrei has made, both in time and money, to take this training, not for a seminar, not for an hour, not for a week, not for a year, but for years and years, getting our daily updates, our weekly updates, going through our workshops. It's a rigorous course, but he is dedicated to having this knowledge. And the best part about being part of our group, he has access to me and our team of experts, because one thing he has learned from being in the group, and he'll tell you this, he knows what he doesn't know, because once you have that knowledge, you know you can't know it all, but that's okay. He knows what he doesn't know, and he has us as a back office for him to know the rest. So you're in good hands. All right, so we talked about the debt, getting rid of the debt in the IRA. The debt is that tax bill growing against you before you do anything, before you take the money out. It's growing against you. We want it working for you. That's the debt part, the first silent retirement killer. The second one I said is risk. What I'm talking about is stock market risk. We're really worried. I'm looking at the market like you are every day. At some point, this thing is just going to burst. And you don't want this happening going into retirement or already there. That is the worst scenario. This happened to people back in 2008 and 9, and they never recovered. You don't have the time to recover. And what I see now is very dangerous, what I call excessive trading. And I see that for three reasons. What that is doing, that's pumping all this air into this stock market balloon. At some point, it's going to pop. Excessive trading is, by my opinion, being caused by three events right now. Number one, it's free. Trading is free. All these big financial institutions, they have all these ads, oh, free, no fees, no commissions. So of course, if something's free, everybody wants more of it. So you have all these people trading. And then the second reason, which is a new phenomenon, during the lockdown, when all the sports were locked down, a lot of young guys, you may have seen the articles, couldn't bet on sports. So they say, let's get in the market. And they start wheeling and dealing in and out. That's puffing up the market. Then the third event, and these are all happening at the same time, is the proliferation of stock trading apps. These are game-like apps. Yes, they're making it like games. One app just reported they had 13 million newbie users just recently. Imagine all of this going on in and out and in and out. This is not a good situation. Even the Wall Street Journal. Now, if there was ever a publication that is the most pro stock market, it would be the Wall Street Journal, ergo Wall Street in the name. But they just ran this article a couple of months ago, actually in September. And when the Wall Street Journal starts saying the market is a casino, get out, it's bad. Look at this article. This was September 12th. Can you see the title of this? I'm holding it up to the camera. It says, "Are you a gambler or an investor?" This is the Wall Street Journal saying this. And the headline under it says, "Are you a gambler or an investor? Learn the answer before the market teaches you the difference." Well, I don't want that. And then in another article, they went all in and said, yes, it's a casino officially. Again, this is the Wall Street Journal. And they actually had a picture of a casino. Can you believe this? This was in the Wall Street Journal. And it's worse than that. Now, I was talking about these young guys gambling. This article just came out a couple of weeks ago, also in the Wall Street Journal. Look at this title, about people like you. This says, look at this, help. It says, "Help, the pandemic turned my parents into day traders." Look at that. You believe this? All right, this is no good. This is very dangerous, but we have a solution, and it's very dangerous in the money you're counting on for retirement. So this is this in and out stuff. You know, Warren Buffett, the famous investor, said, if you're not planning on holding a stock for 10 years, don't even think about only owning it for 10 minutes. Yet there are some good long-term stocks. For example, you have to hold them, though, for the long term. Can you do it? Most people don't have the stomach for it, especially going into retirement. I'll give you an example. Last year, just about this time last year, the Wall Street Journal ran an article highlighting the best performing stock, not of 10 minutes ago, but over 30 years, long-term solid gains. Now, I'm not a stock guy, so I never heard of it. The name of the stock was Jack Henry and Associates. Jack Henry and Associates. I never heard of it. But if you had asked me what's the top performing stock over the last 30 years, I might have said Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway, and it did very well, but not like this one. Jack Henry Associates, if you had invested $1,000 in 1989, 30 years later, this time last year when the story ran, that 1,000 would be worth almost $3 million, to around 2.8 million actually. 1,000 to almost $3 million. That's insane. Even Berkshire Hathaway, which did really well, $1,000 would have turned into 36,000, and that would have been phenomenal. But this 1,000 to 3 million, so you're saying, yeah, you know, if I had that, I would have held on to it. Would you have? Would you have held on to Jack Henry and Associates if in 2001 and 2002, during the crash of those years, that stock plummeted and lost over 70% of its value? It was just diving. People were bailing out left and right. Would you have had the stomach to hold on? Probably not. You would have bailed like everybody else and locked in your losses, and those losses would have been gone. I don't know who could have stayed in. I guess the only person who stayed in was maybe Jack Henry himself. I don't know, but this is no way. I mean, just to give you a frame of reference, you know what you'd have to do the math. I had to do it a few times. You know what the percentage gain, if you did hold on for 30 years, was? 300,000% return. Can you even imagine that? but almost nobody got it because they all bailed when the stock started going through the floor, losing over 70%. See, this is no way to go. So we're saying it is a casino. So what do you do when you're up, like everybody's up right now? I mean, look at the perfect day we did it. Now, Andre may be showing this in the future, and somebody watching this on a recording might say, it's not up. The market just crashed. Well, I'll date stamp it. Today is November 10th, 2020. And I think we're right now just about an all-time high. So if you're up, what do you do when at a casino? You take your chips off the table. Lock in your winnings, not your losses, and put them into guaranteed income vehicles. And I'm talking about annuities. Again, I don't sell annuities. I told you that before. But here's another always rule of mine. In retirement, income is always more important than savings because savings can run out. You don't want to be the last man standing when this market crashes. As a rule, whatever you need for monthly income, for your basic monthly living expenses, that should be locked in with annuities, guaranteed income. You can't beat that guaranteed income, at least for your daily, monthly living expenses. And I would even pad that a little. There's nothing better than guaranteed income to help you sleep at night. That's what this is about. My mother had these things for years, and she never had to worry where her money was coming from. My dad died many years ago, and my mother had an advisor, somebody like an Andrei.Hall, and he said, you're going to go a long time. She died last year in her 90s. But even up to the end, she was a character. In fact, right up to the end, she was still looking for a man, except nobody could keep up with her. She used to say, I want a date, not a patient. But those checks, those annuity checks, so I know this personally, those annuity checks kept coming into her no matter how old she got, no matter how sick she got, or no matter how the market performed. There's nothing like guaranteed income for life to be able to sleep at night. Do you want to be watching this market, the ups and downs, and every time somebody says something, oh, there goes my retirement account. Now you can put the rest of the money, balance it out in stocks and bonds and things, but not for the money you need. So you want to look into some income annuities. The only thing better than guaranteed income for life is what I have. Ed, what do you have that's even better than that? I combine the strategies. If you were listening, the only thing better than guaranteed income for life, guaranteed tax-free income for life. I put these annuities in my Roth account. So if I ever need guaranteed income, I can pull from these annuities. It will be guaranteed because it's from a Roth, guaranteed tax-free. This is how you beat the tax man and you beat market risk. You want to beat debt and risk, and you could do it all in one shot with the annuities and the Roth IRA like I did. Now, it's not for everybody, but there's something to be said for being able to sleep at night, knowing you have guaranteed income no matter what happens. And my mother had that security. You know, the greatest gift you can pass on to your family is the gift of your own financial security. The last thing you want to do is hear your children arguing, who's going to take care of mom? She's out of money. This is not where you want to be. There's insurance for that. You know, if you think about it, they have insurance. Most insurance you equate with bad things happening. You have fire insurance in case there's a fire, a bad thing. You have home insurance in case the home gets destroyed. That's a bad thing. Auto insurance in case you get in an accident. Health insurance in case you get sick. All insurance is always for insure against bad things. Is there insurance in case something good happens? Like you live a long and healthy life? Living a long and healthy life should be a bonus, not a punishment. Well, there is insurance for that. And that's what annuities do. Annuities, remember, are not an investment. They're a contract, so they're guaranteed. You want to be able to sleep at night. And that's what most people want. That's the epitome of financial security. You may recall many years ago, or maybe not, there was a book out, I'd say in the early 70s. and it was a bestseller. It was called The Joy of Sex. Oh, now I have your attention. Do you remember that book? Well, I'm going to write a new book. Not really, but here's the book you want. How about The Joy of Income? Wouldn't that be nice? Even better than the other one. Well, you could have both. Everything would be happier if you had the joy of income, don't you think? And you can do that. That's how you eliminate risks. Take some of those chips off the table and turn them into guaranteed income. So you have insurance in case something great happens. You live a long and healthy life. You'll never have to worry where your next check is coming from. Well, that's a good financial plan. What we did is we covered how to get rid of the two silent retirement killers, debt in the form of taxes in your IRAs and 401ks by going from forever tax to never tax, and how to get rid of that risk piling up in the market by turning at least some of it into guaranteed income. And you have a fantastic advisor in Andrei.Hall who can help you do that. And tax rates are at an all-time low. So there's great things you can do now if you take action. JFK once said the time to fix a leaky roof is when the sun is out. Well, now is the opportune time. You have a fantastic advisor. You have a good tax environment to get this done. And I would do it before year end. We know what the rates are now. Don't wait for a sign. You know, when I used to tell people about this years ago, I remember some people used to say, I'm waiting for a sign from above, like divine intervention. Now, I already took care of this for myself, and I want you to do it too. But I got a sign the other day. Look at this piece of junk mail I got the other day. Can you see this? Oh, look how pretty. Junk mail from the cemetery. Do you believe this? I mean, I'm not. Look what they write. Let's face it now. Oh, good, for only $40 a month. Oh, such a beautiful property. Well, you don't wait for that kind of sign. Get it done now. Don't put your head in the sand. I remember Henny Youngman, one of the great comedians. He said, when I read about the evils of drinking, I gave up reading. Don't bury your head in the sand. Time is running out. You can get these things done now. Another football story. The great coach, Vince Lombardi of the Green Bay Packers, once said, the Green Bay Packers never lost a football game. We just ran out of time. Well, I don't want you to run out of time. I want this to happen for you now. Remember, it always comes down to this. You can complain about taxes or do something about them. And it always comes out this way. The more you plan, the more you keep. But to keep more, you have to have a plan. Remember, less is more. The less you pay, the more you keep. To keep more, you have to have a plan. And the plan is not to get your plan, not the government plan. Move your money from accounts that are forever taxed to never taxed. And always remember my always rule. Tax-free is always better. You don't have to share any of it with the government. See, here's the problem. We were all trained poorly. This started for me back in kindergarten. That was my first year of school, probably yours too, right? Now, I don't know if you're grandparents, but now they have like 10 levels before kindergarten. You can go to 10 graduations before the kid ever gets to kindergarten. I see all the lawn signs out. Oh, he's almost ready for preschool. Congratulations, graduate. He made it to kindergarten. Oh, he must be a genius. So my lessons were in kindergarten, and they taught us all the wrong lessons. They taught us about sharing. That's okay for your toys, your crayons, your snacks, but not your money. You don't have to share it. I want you to have a plan to have more, keep more, and make it last. Larger inheritances, more control, less tax. You keep more, IRS gets less, and everybody's happy. And the way to do it is make an appointment, get a plan, get your plan, not the government plan. And now I'm going to bring Andrei back to sum everything up and some closing remarks. And hopefully, he's got his camera on. So there he is. So there's the man I was talking about. Now, he's been studying with us for years and years. Wouldn't you want somebody that has studied this? I mean, if you went to a doctor, wouldn't you want somebody that once read a book about it? I mean, you're going into surgery. Did you read a book? And the problem is, as I said, most advisors just don't have this level of knowledge. That's why I'm here with Andrei tonight. So take it away, Andrei. Great to be here with you.
And thank you so much, really, for taking the time out of your evening to share your knowledge with us. I know there's a lot of you that like what Ed had to say tonight and want to have their own plan and not the government's plan. After what you've heard tonight, you're probably feeling like now is the time to take advantage of this opportunity being given to you. Not only to see what else you can plan, but to update and review what you already have in place. For everyone that is here tonight, I'm offering a complimentary 30-minute Zoom meeting or phone call with me for us to do just that. Throughout this process, keep in mind, Ed & Company is our back office, and that is something you will have access to and the opportunity to benefit from by working with me. Other advisors do not have access to Ed Slott the way that I do. You have received a message through the chat on Zoom tonight to schedule a meeting. Please take a moment to respond with a time that is convenient for you if you're interested. Thank you again for tuning in. Good night and have a great rest of the evening. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Andrei. Great night. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Ed.